tourists here on the island kind of lose their minds. They're not happy about this at all. The St. Ignace newspaper is going to run a story about how disappointed people are when they come to the island and they don't hear these smooth shots. And about a year later, about the next spring, they're reinstated here at Fort Mackinac and at every other fort that they've been taken away from. Additionally, once a week, usually on Thursdays, the fort's actually going to open its doors to these tourists, and they're going to be able to come up here and watch the soldiers marching on the parade ground. Keep in mind this is post-Civil War, so a lot of these people may have personal connections to the war. A lot of them are also just really fascinated with the historic curiosities up here at Fort Mackinac. So much like you have all come here today to, watch these demonstrations and go on our tours and learn the history here at Fort Mackinac, tourists back in the 1880s are doing very similar things. So to introduce our cannon here, this is our model 1841 6-pound smoothbore field gun. It's a bit of a mouthful. It has a range of about a mile, which is out to Round Island. It's a lot more precise at half a mile. So to get this cannon firing underway, I'm going to hand it off to Ethan here, and he's going to explain to you how we load and prime the gun.
All right, so the loading process of a blank charge is very similar to loading a live round. It's very identical. The first step in both is to have Emily here place one of her fingers on the vent or the touch hole in the back of the cannon. That's to stop oxygen from getting in to stoke up any embers while I'm working at the muzzle. This is the auger or the gunner's worm, just a little corkscrew-like device. I'm going to send this down the barrel to try to get out any debris that might still be in here from a previous shot. Of course, if that's some bit of flaming debris, we will have to get that out before we send in some more gunpowder. Now that that's done, I'm moving on to yet another safety step, which is the wet swab. A wet bit of sheep's wool that's on the end of our rammer. It's going to be doused lightly in water and sent down the barrel, just to make sure that if there are any sparks or embers in here, they will be well and truly extinguished, as well as creating a little bit of a vacuum. So when I pull this out, there'll be a bit of a thunk. That's the vacuum collapsing, so we can be certain that there's no powder left in here to ignite the gun off. And we can safely load in that next charge of powder. The charge we're using today is going to be about 5 ounces of black powder. Historically, they'd fire 10 ounces of black powder wrapped in muslin cloth. Ours is an aluminum foil. Muslin cloth is very flammable, and we don't want to send out bits of flaming debris into Marquette Park. As well as 10 ounces is a bit excessive. Can spook horses and knock paintings off the walls. So for everyone's benefit, we've lowered the charge a little bit. It'll still give you a good idea of how these guns sound. That being done, we can now wheel it up to its firing position against the wall. Now we have to prime the cannon. So the first step in this is to puncture the charge. This is a brass spike, it's called a gimlet. I'm going to send this down the touch hole. That'll expose the powder so we can actually set it off in just a moment here. And then I'll be inserting our source of ignition today, which is a friction primer. Same device they were using in the 1880s and even way back to the 1840s. It's just a little brass tube filled with fine gunpowder. There's a pin through the top and a friction-sensitive chemical at the joining point. So when you pull out this pin, it's going to spark, igniting all the powder in the tube, which will shoot a flame onto the main charge, which will set off the cannon. The very last step in this whole process is attaching the firing lanyard to pull the pin, and then the gun is ready to be used.
Alright folks, it is now that I will also take this time to remind you that this is a cannon and it will be loud, so I recommend you either cover your ears or keep recording, whatever your priorities may be. With that being said, there's only 2 commands left to give, and those will be, ready, fire!
Did you hear that? Did you hear that echo? I heard the echo. It didn't shoot anything, Bob. There was nothing in it. Wow. And that's what they would fire at. They were probably firing at the parasailer out there.